What's going on, guys? This is Ryan with RK Outpost, and I got done watching Chapter 7 of The Mandalorian called The Reckoning. And it's a little bit weird. It's not a Friday morning. It released on a Wednesday morning to coincide with the release of The Rise of Skywalker, which I talked about it from nearly the very beginning of this series. I talked about how I was worried that something specifically was going to try to tie back in to The Rise of Skywalker and tie back into the sequel trilogy, and that I did not want that from this TV series. And it happened in this episode. But despite that, overall, it was directed by Deborah Chow, written by Jon Favreau, and I do think that that is a good combination. I think it's safe to say after 2 episodes that that's a good combination, at least on the small screen when you're talking about TV. It just works. This was a good episode. But we will be getting into spoilers from here on, so you have been warned. Spoilers upcoming. Now, we start off Mandalorians in the Razor's Crest in a ship. He gets a communication from Greef Karga saying that, that's Carl Weathers' character, saying that things have really gone to hell in Navarro since he took off. The client has been bringing in more troops, and they're making the city like unbearable to live in. So what he wants to do is to bring the Mandalorian back in to kill the client, to rid the town of that Imperial presence, and basically use the child as bait to lure them out and make them feel comfortable, and then they can just kill everybody. Mando thinks about this for a while. Credits go, and then he goes to Sorgan. He finds Cara Dune, because although he doesn't trust Greef Karga, right? Last time they met, he tried to kill him, and Mando tried to kill him, and so on. So he goes to Sorgan. You find Cara Dune, who's in a bar fight at the time with an enormous Zabrak. Like, the dude is legit enormous. And there's a decent little fight where they are like roped together. Kind of reminds me of like a Russian chain match, maybe, from WWE. If you've ever seen one of those where they're tied together, they can only go so far from each other. But she ends up beating the crap out of this Zabrak and winning a bunch of money as Mandalorian comes and says that he wants her help. He needs her for this job. She's resistant. She says, I don't want to do it. If anybody runs my identification, I'm gonna immediately pop. I want to stay out of it. And then the Mandalorian's like, well, it's an Imperial. And she's like, I'm in. So she goes on the ship. They're sitting there kind of talking about the plan, that he doesn't trust Greef Karga and wants her there for backup. Baby Yoda kind of overhears, the child overhears them talking about the fact that they're going to use him as bait, kind of. And all of a sudden goes back to the cockpit, and the ship just starts tossing and turning. They have to rush back there. The child is on the stick. He's at the helm just messing around. I don't know if it's because he was scared. I don't know if it's because he was just messing around. I don't know exactly what they were supposed to do. It sure looked like he heard that he was going to be turned over, and he was trying to, I don't know if he's trying to fly the ship somewhere, delay it. I wasn't quite sure, but I'm sure people are going to think it's a funny moment. But it basically is like, well, we have to find somebody to take care of him. And so where else do we go? Well, we go back to Quill. We go back to Quill, the Ugnaught, played by Nick Nolte, and you find out that the Mandalorians come in asking him for help, asking him to watch the child. And as they're sitting there talking to him, you learn a little bit more about his history, that he used to work for the Empire, that he was basically an indentured servant to the Empire. So that's something you learn, because he recognizes Cara as a drop trooper, or as a shock trooper, and they call them droppers. And then somebody walks in the front door. That someone is IG-11. He's carrying tea. And of course, Cara and the Mandalorian immediately pull their blasters up and are on the defensive. Quill says, stop. He's not that person anymore. And they go through this like 3-minute montage, 4 minutes maybe, of Quill voiceover while you show him picking up IG-11 after Mandalorian killed him and like fixing him up, and then training him how to do things like hold a cup, carry a box, feed the blurgs, all this stuff. It went on way too long. It didn't need to be that long. Maybe it was supposed to be funny. I don't know. But it went on far longer than it needed to. for it to be established that IG-11 has been reprogrammed by Quill. That's basically all you needed to say. Maybe show a thing of him picking him up and taking him back and fixing him. But he's been reprogrammed by Quill. He's no longer a hunter. He no longer is trying to kill Baby Yoda, anything like that. But of course, Mandalorian doesn't like droids. That it gets said in basically every single episode. That Mandalorian doesn't like droids. He doesn't want IG-11 watching the child. So he comes back to Quill and is like, listen, I don't trust him. I want you to be there. I do trust you as much as I can trust someone else. I want you there to help me with the child. And he basically agrees to, as long as IG-11 can come along with them, Quill will go. And he won't be doing it for payment. He's just going to be doing it to protect the child from Imperial enslavement. So that tells you a little something about, how he feels that he had been treated. Back on the ship. Oh, and he also wants to bring the blurgs. So they bring the blurgs. Back on the ship, Cara and Mandalorian are arm wrestling. And as they're arm wrestling, they're in a stalemate. And all of a sudden, the child, Baby Yoda, sees this. And he reaches out. And all of a sudden, Cara starts choking. He's using the Force. He's force choking Cara because her and the Mandalorian are arm wrestling. And so he immediately Mandalorian stops. No, stop it. She's okay. So we see Baby Yoda force choke someone. So maybe Baby Yoda will be a villain at some point in time. We don't know. But that hints Quill that maybe he thinks he knows that this is the Force because he'd heard rumors about it when he served for the Emperor, or when he served the Empire. But the three of them, IG-11, stays in the ship. Baby Yoda also comes with them. They go and they leave. They meet Greef Karga and 3 other guild members, bounty hunters, down there. And there's like this little standoff where they're not sure if they trust each other. But Greef Karga says, well, let's go. We got a long walk ahead of us. And they start walking through the deserts of Navarro. It's covered in lava. Kind of cool little scenery. And they have to camp for the night. As they're camping, they're talking about the plan. Greef Karga seems to think it's not going to be a big deal. There's not going to be that many stormtroopers. All Mandalorian has to do is kill the client, and they'll mop up the rest. No big deal. As they're talking about this, it's night. From up ahead swoops this huge creature. I don't know what it is. I didn't recognize it from Star Wars lore. It was really dark, so you couldn't get a really good idea. It looked like a pterodactyl, basically, like a dinosaur. But it sweeps down, hits Greef Karga, is attacking the blurgs, is attacking everybody, and evidently no one has any room to talk when they're trying to make fun of stormtroopers for not shooting because almost no one can hit anything. Cara does eventually take down one of those pterodactyl creatures. Mandalorian gets tackled by one and ends up flaming one, and it runs away. And they repel these creatures, but Greef Karga is very injured. His arm is all messed up, and its poison is going up through it. Cara is trying to do a little bit of triage and help him, but it doesn't look good for Greef Karga, for Carl Weathers' character. But luckily, Baby Yoda, the child, comes waddling over, puts his hand on him, and heals him. Force healing. Now, I said spoilers for Mandalorian, also spoilers for Rise of Skywalker if you didn't already know this, but Force healing plays a big part in the Rise of Skywalker, something we'd never seen done at this level, this kind of Force healing before. And when all this started taking place in episode 2, when we saw that the child had Force powers, I said that I think what they're doing is they're establishing things to help explain why Rey can do things. And I truly feel that that is exactly what this is. He uses the Force healing that is used in the sequel trilogy, episode 9, that has been released on the same day, effectively. And that's irritating. I thought that that's what was going to happen from the beginning, and it turns out it is in fact the case. So they're using Force healing. That's one of the ways they're going to go to explain how Rey can do it. Well, it's never been seen before. Look, this person could do it. But anyway, regardless of all that, Greef Karga gets healed by the child, and it does take a little bit of effort out of him. The next day, they're walking, continuing the plan, and Greef Karga stops. The bounty hunters are behind Mandalorian and Cara and Quill. And Grief Karga stops. He says, "There's something I have to tell you," or something like that. And you see the bounty hunters pull their weapons like they're about to ambush him. Grief Karga spins and shoots both of them immediately. They both die. And of course, Kara and Mandalorian pull their weapons, but they don't shoot him. Grief Karga explains it was the plan all along for him to bring them out here and kill them and steal the child and bring him back. But after what had happened the night before, after baby Yoda had saved him, he couldn't go through with that anymore. But he has a different proposition, and they decide, Mandalorian had some alterations to the plan. He sends the child with Quill back to the ship to lock it up, get safe. They're taking the little capsule that Baby Yoda sits in, and they are going to take that with them, pretend that the baby's in there, and say that Grief Karga has captured, that Kara has captured the Mandalorian, and with Grief Karga, they're going to see the client to basically turn everything in and get their reward. And he said that's no big deal. There's 4 stormtroopers guarding the client. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. They go in there. They realize that this town's kind of overflowing with troops at this point. He does still think there's only 4 with the client, though. He hands him his chain code. The scout trooper who is guarding the entrance asks for his chain code. And he basically, because I've been kind of wondering what that is, it's basically just identification. He just gives him an ID, and they scan it. He asked to buy Mandalorian's helmet, and there's a little bit of humor between Mandalorian and Grief Karga. Obviously, he doesn't sell the helmet because he doesn't take the helmet off. We go in, gets led in to see the client, Werner Herzog's character, again. And he talks to the Mandalorian a little bit. What do you say? I wrote a bunch of stuff. Listen, every time I do these reviews, I write all this stuff down. Like, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. This is all written down. This is all written down. This is all written down. That's all these pages. I never freaking look at it. Let's see if I can find it. Okay. So, he talks to Mandalorian a little bit about, like, why did he have to resist? Kind of asking in the same way, like, this didn't have to go this way. And he talks about why did the Mandalorian people resist the Imperial's occupation of Mandalore? The Empire makes everything better, everything more smooth. Think about everything that's happened after the resistance, after the rebellion. Is the world really better off, or is it just carnage out there? Is it just chaos out there? And I did like that, and that is very much an Imperial point of view. Now, bringing it back to the expanded universe, which you guys know I am so familiar with, that was a thing, and that's how Imperials kind of thought. That's how they, a lot of people actually were okay. A lot of planets were okay being under Imperial rule. Because they were okay with that, a little more strict, a little more controlling, a little less chaotic, less freedoms, but less chaotic. And so there was an interesting point of view from him. He also mentions how great the Mandalorian Beskar can look when it's crafted by actual Mandalorians. And again, in the expanded universe, they do talk about how Mandalorians are the only ones who truly knew the secrets to crafting Beskar in the exact right way to get it perfect. So they brought in some lore there. But he's asking to see the baby before they reveal the fact that there's no baby in the little capsule. He gets a call. So he gets a call, and it's Moff Gideon on the holo, basically saying, where's the child? Are you done with the child? Do you have him? And he's like, oh, he's sleeping. We haven't seen him yet. And they get ambushed. Well, I don't even say ambushed. They just get blown apart. So all of a sudden, blaster bolts light up this entire area. And the client, all the stormtroopers in there are killed. Grief Karga, Cara Dune, and Mando are safe because they're in the back of the room. And you see an enormous hole in the building. And all of the chrome troopers, I can't tell exactly if they're exactly like Phasma chrome or if they're just like black chrome. I couldn't get a really great view of them. I was watching it on usually I watch it on the TV, but I was watching it on my computer this time. And they seem a little more black than just straight chrome. But either way, they look sweet. And they blow apart everybody in there, and all of a sudden regular stormtroopers start unloading out of these cars, and there's like at least 50 or 60 troops, a ton, and they're sitting there like, well, we can't do anything, we're cornered. Mando gets on the phone or on the comlink with Quill and is like, Quill, you need to go. You need to get in there, lock the child up, and leave, because we're in the shit. Like, there's no way we're gonna be able to do anything. Just get him safe, get him out of here. So Quill starts really booking it, but scout troopers overhear this in their headsets, and they take off on their speeder bikes, and they're tracking Quill down. As that happens, you see a TIE fighter come in, and it's a pretty cool scene. You know, even with all the crap we've been through with the Disney sequel trilogy, there is still a feeling you have when you see stormtroopers, when you see TIE fighters. There's still a feeling of I don't know, like, what am I thinking? Nostalgia. There's still a feeling of nostalgia when you see that. But you see a TIE fighter come in, and instead of landing on its struts, it actually folds in half, so it can land and he can actually step out. And it's Moff Gideon. And Giancarlo Esposito's character, we truly have a villain who I think is really solid. And what I mean by that is when he speaks, it rings back to Moff Tarkin in a way. He's very sure of himself, and he's backed by all this power. He feels like he's probably smarter than everybody, and he's invincible. That's how he feels he probably is, and I like it. We only got a couple lines from him basically saying, you have no idea what the child is. You have no idea what you're into, and I will get him. Like, he had no doubts in his mind that he would end up with him. And as he's giving this little speech, you see, Quill trying to get to the Razor's Crest on a blurg while the speeder bikes are chasing him down. It's pretty well done, the way that it's set up, the tension and everything. And he's almost to the Razor's Crest, and Mandalorian is asking, Quill, are you there? And he doesn't have time to speak because he's trying to get there. He doesn't have any time to even pull out a comlink. And at the very end of the episode, you see the little bundle that was Baby Yoda laying on the ground. And one of the speeder bikes comes, the scout trooper scoops him up, and they take off. And then they pan over, and you see Quill, who has been killed. He's smoking on the ground. He didn't make it to the Razor's Crest. They tracked him down, and they killed him. And I thought that was awesome. And then the episode ends. I thought that was a great way to end it. And something great, like, I don't really care about Quill's character that much, but there are a lot of people that do, that are going to be devastated by this. But I think it's good. I've been so tired of the past couple episodes where he trusts everybody, he doesn't kill anybody. There's no darkness to the show. Like, even though they were trying to a little bit even though they were trying to a little bit more with episode 6, it was not quite as dark as maybe I'd expected it to be, because he doesn't kill any of those people at the end. He just locks them up and puts them in prison. But here, people are going to be hurt in the fact that Quill's dead. They're going to be upset because they were attached to that character because he talks funny, I guess. So yeah, good way to end it. And so now they're in the shit. But overall, again, directed by Deborah Chow. There wasn't a ton of action in this, not like episode 3. There were parts with action in them, but they weren't. The show wasn't really focused on that. We advanced the plot. We got to know just a little bit more about Mandalorian's past. We got to know more about the Bounty Hunters Guild. We got to learn more about the Imperial occupation that's there, and overall, good episode, setting us up well for an episode 8 finale. And I think Taika Waititi's doing that one, so it'll be interesting. That's his first installment in Mandalorian. But like I said, overall, good episode. I like Deborah Chow. I'm not a huge fan of Mandalorian in general, because I do think it's mostly filler, that they've stretched this thing out. But now we're back in the plot, and they have me interested a little bit in again, like they did those first couple episodes. So we'll see how it ends. I like Deborah Chow. Looking forward to the Obi-Wan series with her. But let me know what you guys think. If you watched this, if you thought it was good, if you thought it was bad. Again, like I said, I was really glad to get away from the filler and get back to the actual plot of this show. So, I keep saying it. Deborah Chow, everyone wants to give her a movie. I don't know about that, but I'm looking forward to this Obi-Wan series now that I know that she is the one in charge of it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you like, subscribe, share this video out there, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching, everyone, and a huge shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys so much. Want to follow me on Twitter or Instagram? Check out the description below. You'll find links to my P.O. box and my Patreon as well. And I'll talk to you guys later.